Welcome back to Psychology of Learning with Dr. Goodin. We'll be talking about Chapter 11, Discrimination, Generalization, and Stimulus Control. Generalization is the tendency for the effects of a learned experience to spread, sometimes called transfer, since the effects of a learned experience move. Generalization may happen across people, across time, across behaviors, or across situations, such as in stimulus generalization. Response generalization is the tendency for changes in one behavior to spread to other behaviors. A simple example would be rubbing your right temple with your hand and noticing that it feels good or relieves pressure. You might have the genius idea to try the other temple. Stimulus generalization is the tendency for changes in behavior in one situation to spread to other situations. It is often defined as the tendency to respond to stimuli not present during training. Now we get to revisit another classic tale in psychology. You may want to note that many of the classic tales of psychology were questionable when it came to ethics, morality, or parenting. You'll note that I'm not showing the videos during this recording, but I do plan to provide the PowerPoint so that you can view them separately. Little Albert, this guy was mentioned in chapter 4, but his whole story wasn't told. Little Albert was a baby or toddler that was used in an experiment with a famous psychologist named Watson. Some speculate that little Albert was the son of his mistress, but who knows. Watson let little Albert play with a white rat. Little Albert loved the white rat and giggled and smiled and patted the rat. Then Watson had a clever idea. Right? Every time Watson placed the white rat in the little Albert's lap, he would then go behind little Albert and make a loud clanging sound to scare little Albert. Little Albert learned to associate the white rat with a scary noise. And that's classical conditioning, right? Now here's the stimulus generalization part that Watson was most interested in. After training little Albert to fear white rats, Watson wanted to know if that fear would transfer or generalize to other things with similar characteristics to the white rat. Indeed, little Albert expressed fear of a man with a Santa Claus beard, which was white. He feared a white bunny. He feared raw cotton. Albert's fear had spread or generalized from the white rat to other white furry objects. Researchers have identified ways of increasing the generalization of training effects. Provide training in a variety of contexts, provide lots of examples, and vary the consequences. If you are reinforcing the behavior, vary the kind, amount, and schedule of reinforcers. You can even reinforce generalization when it occurs. So now we're going to get into the opposite of stimulus generalization, which is stimulus discrimination. This is the tendency for behavior to occur in certain situations, but not in others, to occur in the presence of certain stimuli, but not in their absence. This is really important in shaping. If I'm teaching my kid to type, I may praise him for pressing any key, but eventually I want him to discriminate between the keys that he presses. Any procedure for establishing a discrimination is called discrimination training. While training my kid to type, I might begin to only reinforce the pressing of keys that have letters on them. Then I would continue to get more specific. Of course, I don't have a kid, and he or she does not know how to type, so find a better example for yourself. Remember the signals that told an animal when it would be reinforced or shocked? Those are discriminative stimuli that signal different consequences for behavior. In simultaneous discrimination training, the discriminative stimuli are presented at the same time simultaneously. My silly example of teaching my kid to type was like this. It presented the right keys and the wrong keys at the same time. In successive discrimination training, the bad stimulus, called S delta in our book, represents the bad keys, or the stimuli that should be discriminated against. Don't press those, kid. S plus refers to the good keys, or the stimuli that I want the learner to respond to. So, in successive discrimination training, they do not occur at the same time, but rather alternate. As you've no doubt learned, there are many intricate studies that can be done surrounding each concept. For instance, with regard to discrimination, there's a procedure called matching to the sample. A pigeon will have the choice to peck one of 3 discs on the wall. The sample disc is illuminated by light. That's the one that is the S plus, the good one, the one they're supposed to respond to. When the light goes off, the pigeon is supposed to peck one of the 2 alternative discs, the one that matched in color to the sample disc. In contrast, oddity matching, or mismatching, reinforces the bird for picking the disc option that does not match the sample disc. In errorless discrimination training, the wrong stimulus is presented in very weak form and for short periods, while the right stimulus is presented in full strength for a long time. This method avoids the negative emotions that often accompany mistakes or errors. Differential outcome effects involve variation of the consequences. Using this method, you might signal the correct stimulus or the wrong stimulus by having, for instance, a rat press the left lever when a tone sounds for the right lever if the light comes on, avoiding the other lever in both situations. Additionally, researchers have varied the consequences. When the rat pressed the left lever correctly, it got food, but when it pressed the right lever correctly, it received sugar water. Immediately reinforcing one correct behavior and providing delayed reinforcement for another correct behavior actually teaches animals to discriminate than animals receiving immediate reinforcement for both behaviors. Other studies have shown that birds and fish can discriminate between types of music. Pigeons can discriminate between paintings by Picasso and Monet. Sometimes discrimination training is used in language learning, especially among adults. For instance, it has been used to help Japanese people learn the English language, discriminating between the L sound and the R sound. When discrimination training brings behavior under the influence of discriminative stimuli, the behavior is said to be under stimulus control. For instance, training a rat to press a lever when a light is on, but not when the light is off, and you get your lever pressed by flipping the light switch. Another way of looking at it is that the rat has also gained control, no longer wasting time and energy pressing a lever when doing so is useless. Humans, when driving, are under the control of traffic lights and signs, with the stimulus control enabling us to travel more or less safely and efficiently. Discrimination training has been used to help students improve their ability to mentally rotate objects. The word concept usually refers to any class of members, sorry, the word concept usually refers to any class the members of which share one or more defining features. The defining features allow us to discriminate the members of one class from the members of another. For example, all spiders have 8 legs. Concepts require both generalization and discrimination. One must generalize within the conceptual class and discriminate between that and other classes. You may wish to recognize a variety of spiders when you see them, even ones you've never seen before, and then to distinguish between spiders and other critters like aphids, resembling a tree, or features in other studies. Pigeons have learned the concept of sameness. Smoking relapse, after being trained to only peck a disc that was blue on both sides, is a stimulus control to apply the concept in other situations where discs were the same color. For people like Mark Twain, a lifelong cigar smoker, who quipped, "It's easy to quit smoking. I've done it hundreds of times. It's very difficult." Smoking is looking difficult at a concept. We have the concept of a mammal is extremely difficult. And the defining features